Hey, what's going on? Back again today with another video. And so what I want to talk about today are really three of the main ways that a lot of times we can block our life purpose. And, it's one of those things that, I've talked about it before, about, 10 years ago, kind of, going through a bit of a spiritual awakening. And one of the realizations that I came to was that I just felt that I had a bigger purpose than, for my life than what I was living at the time. I felt like I was meant for something more. I didn't really know what it was, but that was really the time where it just kind of woke me up to search for it and find what my purpose was. And, what a lot of times, though, what happens is that, we can maybe start to identify what that is, or we start to get a feeling of, what our purpose might be. But then, we get stuck. We don't know how to live it. We don't know, how to get there. Or sometimes, like, in my case, I kind of had a feeling like, that something was there, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was exactly. And it was almost like it was just kind of hidden from me. That's what I felt like. I had to go searching for it. I couldn't find it. And a lot of times that happens. So really, there's different things that we do though, that block it from us. So if you're in a place where you're kind of questioning, what is my purpose? What's the meaning of my life? Why am I here? What am I supposed to do? And you're really kind of just stuck and struggling figuring that out. I want to talk about really three of the ways that you might be blocking that purpose from coming to you and you going to it. So this is kind of some of the stuff that I've gone through, and so I wanted to share that because it's really never a case of we can't find it or we can't figure it out. It's really understanding the ways that the subconscious things that we do that block it from us and block us from it. So the first thing, it's not being aware of or being unaware of your language, that I call it. So when I say language now, I'm really talking about the stuff that we tell ourselves inside of our head. All of the things that make us feel that we're not good enough, that we're not smart enough, that something's wrong with us, that it'll never work, we're going to fail, all of these things. I talked the other day about, Tony Robbins syndrome that I had, and I was stuck with that for so long. And, thinking every time that I got excited about thinking about, I wanted to get out and speak to audiences and inspire people and empower people, and every time I would think about Tony Robbins and how good he is and how I can't even compare to that guy and I'm not as talented as him. I don't, know what he knows and I can't do what he does. And I would just talk myself right out of it. So I went from excited to like down in the dumps, defeated in minutes, just like that, So, and really though, what it wasn't that I needed to be him, and it wasn't that I wasn't good enough to go out and do what I wanted to do. It was the language in my head that kept me stuck in that belief that because I wasn't him, or because, I couldn't compare to him in my mind, that the dream wasn't going to happen. It wasn't possible, right? And kind of sounds silly to me now that I think about it, but this is really where I was stuck. So, it has to do a lot with the language that we have, that inner voice that's always talking to us, because it's always saying something. Now, it's so, though, sometimes like it happens just automatically, and it's driven so deep within us. It's a subconscious thing. So, it can happen to the point where we're not even aware of that voice that's going on, right? And a lot of times there's other ways that our language speaks to us too, right? So, this is really just about becoming very aware of, what it is, what your language is telling you, how it speaks to you, what it's saying to you, right? And really becoming aware of that, because, I've said this before, that awareness is really the prerequisite for choice. And what I mean is that we cannot change anything that we're not aware of. So if we have a purpose that we're seeking, or even if we know what it is and we're trying to get there, we're trying to attract it, or we're trying to pull ourselves to it, you can't get there if you don't, or if you're not aware of what it is that's going on that's keeping you stuck. If you're not aware of what's keeping you from living that purpose or finding that purpose, we have to become aware. So everything becomes or begins with developing the awareness, and it starts with the language that goes on in our head. And this is where self-sabotage is really driven from. It's the language in our heads, because if we've got that voice telling us all the reasons why we're not smart enough, we're not good enough, we're going to fail, it's never going to work, we're not talented, we can't do what we want to do, and all of these things that are really disempowering and negative for us, it's going to those kind of thoughts and beliefs, they become beliefs, and that's what drives our behaviors and actions, right? Everything we do, every way that action that we take or don't take, is the result of this language in the head that drives it all, right? So it's being very, very aware of the language. So then, when we can change the language in our head, then we can change the behavior, right? So if we change our behavior, then we start to change our outcomes, right? So that's what that is. The second thing is when we're not aligned with our purpose. So, a lot of times, we have a goal, or you might feel a purpose, or there's something there, and you're trying to get there, okay? But what happens is that a lot of times when we're not getting there, we're not really we feel stuck, we're not making any progress. A lot of times what happens is that what's happening is that we're not aligned within ourselves with the goal that we're seeking, right? Whatever that purpose is, whatever that outcome is that you've got for yourself, you have to be aligned with it internally, right? So again, like if I looked at going back to the whole Tony Robbins thing, right? I know my goal at the time was to be a speaker, right? I wanted to travel all over, the world and empower audiences. But the problem wasn't that I couldn't do it. It was that within myself, I was not aligned with that goal, right? I did not have the belief that I could do it, right? I thought that I wasn't good enough. I, had the whole Tony Robbins syndrome going on, and things like that. So, I really was not aligned with that goal. And I really didn't get the opportunities to speak until I started changing things within myself. I started to align myself more with the goal that I had and my purpose. And that's when things started to shift, right? So it's really, really understanding that, because I know too that, when we have something that we want, a goal, a purpose, right, a certain outcome, and when we don't achieve it, when we feel like we're stuck and we're really struggling, a lot of times it's easy to get down and feel like you're not good enough. You can feel like, maybe you're just lazy, or you're not motivated, or that something's wrong with you, right? We get into kind of that trap, and we start to really feel like what we want isn't possible for us. It's like, yeah, that's great for, everybody else out there who's, doing their thing, but that's just not in the cards for us. We're not meant for it. We're never going to have it. It's very easy to get into that frame of mind, right? And it's a very, very, dangerous place to be, right? In terms of, fulfilling your purpose and feeling happy and, and doing what you feel that you're meant to do while you're here, right? So, just really being very, very aware of that stuff, and doing the inner work that you need to align yourself with your purpose, okay? So that was the second thing. And then the third thing is something that I call actions, habits, and skills. And, one of the ways that we could block ourselves from finding and living our purpose is when our actions, habits, and skills are not directed toward our purpose. And so, what I mean by that is that in order to have that purpose, in order to find it and live it, we have to develop certain skills, right? And when I say skills, really skills are a level of, you could say, mastery that we have, but it's really the ability to create consistent and predictable outcomes. So if I'm skilled at golf, right, that would mean that I can, consistently create predictable results in my golf game. I'm going to shoot typically a certain score or around that, right? Look at, the top golfers out there. Look at, I know Tiger's not the top guy, but, guys like Tiger and Phil Mickelson and, and all these other guys who are consistently, like every event you see, right? Every tournament that you see on TV, these guys are always in the final cut, right? They're always there. And the reason why they're there is because they have developed skill, a very high level skill around their golf game. So they are consistently in the final round. They're consistently in the running to win tournaments all the time. They have that kind of skill, right? So our skills, where our skills come from, are from our habits. And then habits are really just patterns. They're patterns that we repeat over and over and over again. Sorry about that. Anyway, so our habits are patterns that when we repeat them over and over and over again, patterns that get repeated become habit, right? They become automatic. That's where our skills get developed from. So it's really important to be mindful of the habits that we're creating, right? We could create habits that develop skills that will help take us closer to our purpose, our goal, right? Or we could develop the quote unquote bad habits, right? The ones that take us further away. And then we got to be careful because we could develop, those lead to us developing skills that actually we become very good at creating consistent and predictable outcomes that take us further away from our goal, right? Or that oppose our goal or our purpose, okay? So then, the bottom line then, how do we create habits? It comes from our actions, the things that we're doing. When we repeat certain actions over and over and over, eventually they become habits, right? So now you can kind of see the pattern. Actions lead to habits and habits lead to skills. And then skills, right, that ends up kind of determining our outcomes here. So it's really, really being mindful about what kind of skills you have developed and what kind of skills you're using right now, right? What are you using skills for? And I think the easiest way that I've learned to understand that is really by looking at the outcomes that you're creating right now. Are you where you want to be in your life? Are you fulfilling your purpose? Do you know your purpose? Are you living it, right? Or are you getting there? Are you really making good progress with it? Or are you so far away from it that, like, a lot of times you doubt it's ever going to happen? Do you feel completely lost and not, knowing or having a clue what that purpose might be? These are kind of the things that will let you know what you're using your skills for. We all have skills, right? And it's very easy, though, to use the skills in kind of creating the opposite outcomes that we want, right? The things that we don't want. A lot of times that's what we're doing, and we're doing it subconsciously. It's not intentional. So this isn't to say you're to blame if, you're not fulfilling your purpose. It's not your fault, that you're not where you want to be. Not at all. I used to blame myself and think, man, this is all my fault and I'm screwed up and something's wrong with me. It's not that at all. It's just, it's very, it's an unconscious thing that has become habit, right? These skills. And we just use them over and over and over because we've learned over so many years how to create all the stuff that we don't want. And it's not our fault, right? It's not your fault. You're not to blame, but it is your responsibility just to develop the awareness around what's happening. Because like I said before, when you've got the awareness, you can see what you're doing and how you're creating things in your life and the outcomes, whether they're good or bad, right? Whether they're what you want or what you don't want. Once you can see it and you develop the awareness, boom, now you've got the power to change it, right? So it just starts there. Being very aware of, of your actions, habits, and skills. One of the questions I like to use to ask myself, and this really helps me know, like, if I'm on track toward my purpose or if I'm not, it's asking yourself in any given moment that you're doing something or whatever, and it's asking yourself, is what I'm doing right now bringing me closer to my purpose, or is it taking me further away? Okay, is what I'm doing right now taking me closer to my purpose or moving me further away from it? Right? That's a question that, if you ask that, it'll give you clarity and it'll give you awareness just like that, right? So, I find that works really, really well and is very simple to do. So anyway, that's it. That's the three ways that we do tend to block ourselves from finding and living our purpose. So hopefully that helped you in some way. And as usual, if you have any comments, feedback, questions, feel free to type them in down below. Private message me if you want. If it's something personal, that's cool. Until the meantime, have faith, follow your heart, trust yourself, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you next time.